Got it.
All right. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone this evening? My name is Naja. I am the education coordinator here at Keep Growing Detroit. You all are in for a real treat tonight. We have Backyard Herbs, Inspiring Community Resilience with Lottie Spady of Earthseed Detroit. So she has a lot of great information for you all. So I hope you are prepared. As you know, this is a free class, but we do kindly accept donations of any form. So if you feel so compelled, please do so. And we are going to get started in a few. Going to let a few more people in. I know this is going to be a full class, so bear with us as we get everyone inside. All right, and I'm going to pass it on over to Lottie.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to play some music while we're waiting for more people to come in. So let me hope I can do that right. We're going to ask you to put your questions in the chat
And throughout the session, we will take breaks and have question and answer sessions. So we will get to your questions, but just hold them for the chat, okay?
Okay, so we're gonna get started, and when you start sharing your screen, it should automatically cut me off, okay?
All right, yep, you can go ahead and share your screen now, Lottie. Yep,
Oh,
I share mine. That was
oh
the
wait,
beginning.
you mean the Keep Growing Detroit intro, or
Mhm.
you're gonna share that now?
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody missed that? I'll share it again. This one. Okay, yeah, so this is just our introduction for anyone that missed it. This is Backyard Herbs, Inspiring Community Resilience with Lottie Spady of Earthseed Detroit. So we're in for a treat. He has a lot of information
I'm
for
sorry,
you.
did you, I know, I'm sorry. Did you want me to start my presentation, or were you gonna talk a little bit about Keep Growing Detroit first?
Oh no, this is our introduction right here.
Or are you on mute?
This is all you tonight. It's all about you. I'm gonna stop this. You want to go ahead and open up your screen? Okay, you want me to pull it up for you,
I
Lottie?
think you're on mute, Naja.
You can't hear me? Yeah, turn yours up.
Will we have access to the slides?
Yes, you will.
Okay, thanks.
Can you hear me, Lottie? I think she can hear me. Give me one moment, everyone. Nope. Good, little technical difficulties. You can hear me now?
I can hear you now. My apologies.
Okay.
I was,
You want me to run the slides or?
I can run my slides, but I thought you were gonna say some Keep Growing Detroit stuff first.
Oh no, that was just the beginning intro. Yep.
Oh, you're all done with that? Okay.
Yeah, that was just
Oh,
our
okay.
beginning. Like, hey, this is Lottie. It's all about you now.
Okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna share my screen. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah, so I'll take this one off and you can pop yours
Okay.
up.
Okay.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us. We're in it together.
We act like we ain't been on Zoom for the last 3 years.
Right.
So, all right, let me see here. Let me see here.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Okay, everybody. Welcome, welcome to this class on backyard herbs, inspiring community resilience. This is our 3rd year of doing this class, and it's very exciting because each time we have a full house. We're still trying to work out how to accommodate everyone who wants this knowledge and information. So that is very exciting. So we're going to start the way I start every class, and let's bring ourselves into the room, into the work that we are about to do. We begin by honoring the land, the ancestral land on which we live. We are on the indigenous land of the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires, Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi. Detroit is also the largest majority Black city in the nation, with a long legacy of African diasporic global contributions, which was once the last stop on the Underground Railroad, known by its code name, Midnight. Detroit is also next to Dearborn, the US city with the largest concentration of Arab Americans. Detroit is a border city with a historic and growing Latinx community and a legacy of Asian American communities and movements. We acknowledge this land, its history, and all the beings seen and unseen, known and unknown, as we step into our work on this land. We ask that if you would like to acknowledge the lands of where you're currently or historically from, feel free to drop the name in the chat. We also like to take time to honor the ancestors. And this quote is from Work in the Roots by Michelle E. Lee, that it takes a whole village to heal a community. This work is for our ancestors, our elders, and the generations that carried this holistic science through and beyond Middle Passage. May we continue to preserve and share our ancient knowledge to heal humanity and all life on Mother Earth. And remember that our ancestors speak to and through us. And at this time, if you want to acknowledge your ancestors who made your presence here possible, you can place their names in the chat also and bring them into the room, into this valuable work that we're undertaking together today. Yes, Mississippi, Louisiana, we have Bertha Faulkner, Pat from Demopolis, Alabama, Richard Patton, to go back up to Stone Mountain, Georgia, St. Louis, Missouri, Detroit, Chicago, Mississippi, Nigeria, Nezzy Young, Vashti Beatrice Lee, Mississippi and Louisiana, Richard Patton, William Freeland, Mary Carter, Montgomery, Alabama. Currently, and I'm not going to mispronounce the indigenous name that's before us in the chat, historically Embera Champ lands, Northern Andes, thank you. Honora Riley, Hebern, Ireland. Tracy Kelly, Nita, Mom, Rudy, Sam Hawkins, Foster McCall. Welcome, welcome, welcome. They stand at our front and at our back. Caitlin. And you can continue to populate as you wish. The next thing we're going to do is you're just going to take 3 minutes, and I'll come off of screen sharing to join with you in this. This will be just a 3-minute breathing meditation. We have a lot vying for our attention. Whether you just came from one of your many jobs, or taking care of yourself, or taking care of someone else, or just running errands, or maybe you had a very relaxing day. I would hope that for everyone. But let's give ourselves the gift of being present. So I'm just going to set the timer for 3 minutes. So we can just become present. There's no right or wrong way to do this. If you want to close your eyes, if you're comfortable closing your eyes, feel free to do so. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you might want to just soften your gaze, looking ahead of you or at a far distant point, or out of a window at nature or a plant. Something just to let you settle in. We'll start now. And everyone can take a deep breath in. And a slow breath out. Take another deep breath in. Slow breath out. And as you breathe in a rhythmic way, just notice. Notice where there may be tension in your body. And try to send love to that area and release with your breath to sink further into relaxing. If there's any pain, we can be compassionate for the work that our bodies do for us. And on this breath, if you'd like to lift your shoulders all the way up as you breathe in. And then when you exhale, you can let them drop. And as this meditation comes to a close, again, breathing compassion to your body that works so hard for us every day, doing so many things we don't even know, and giving thanks. Thank you. Thank you all. hit the wrong button. Where'd you all go? Okay, so I'm gonna start by giving a little background on me, although I'm blessed to know quite a few of you that are here. But my name is Lottie Spady, and I have been studying herbalism formally for almost 9 years now. I can't believe next year will be my 10th year of coming to this work. And I'll talk a little bit more about how I came to the work, but I did found Earthseed Detroit. I am an online media, healthy media content creator. I make videos and social media messaging around sustainable living, environmentally conscious living, foraging, homesteading, herbalism. I'm just sharing my journey with everyone to let them know that if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I didn't grow up with a big exposure to nature. I grew up in the heart of Detroit. And so I'm learning as I go. And Earthseed Detroit basically is about reconnecting cultural history around plant-based medicine and wild food, learning to survive in troubled times, excavating, recentering, and honoring our ancestors' history, learning a sense of adventure and to be respectful and comfortable when in nature. And it's about community health and empowerment, knowing what is best for ourselves and choosing to nourish our bodies, minds, and souls. And so I believe that my background is in popular education, which relies on the wisdom in the room, that we are our best experts, our lived experiences count for everything, and that we're our best resource. This particular quote came from a really good book, my bad, on trauma stewardship. And like it says, developing a microculture of supportive friends and family, we create an environment that sustains us, just as the earth does. By being compassionate to ourselves and others, we ground ourselves. This is where we come out of isolation, tap into the core energies of Mother Nature, and tend to both our individual and collective health and wellness. And this quote, which says the exact same thing, I think, but was from one of my herbalism classes, where one of the participants said that us coming together, like we're doing today, as a group is a contribution in and of itself to the collective healing process of the community. So I'm going to pause here because I would like to bring more of you into the room. And I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to come back to that slide though, because I know I was like, wait, who was that? That was my mom. So I know everyone brought things to take notes with. So you now have a writing assignment, because I want to know more about who's in the room. And let me see. Now we have 43 participants, so everybody's not going to be able to share. We are only going to be here for a couple of hours, but this is your assignment that I would like, and some of you are welcome to share afterward. We're going to take 10 minutes, or more or less 10 minutes, to write about who was your first connector to plants as medicine. And I'll put these questions in the chat after I finish reading them. Where did you first connect to plants as medicine? And in what ways have plants shown up for you? I mean, it could be from offering shade, beauty, food, medicine, reminding you of a favorite person, a significant time in your life, Or perhaps there were deeper messages from spirit, soul, beyond. You may have a favorite plant, if so, why? So we're just going to take 10 minutes. Let's see. Yeah, 10 minutes to journal about your relationship with plants. And like I said, I will type the messages here in the chat. This is nothing like being on the spot to try to type something, right? You type just as fast forward as backwards when you get to having to delete everything. I see that there's a, I don't want to call anyone out, but there's Jess Fournier, are you wanting to make a comment? Or that might have been my light. Okay, it looks like that was just,
I didn't have anything to say. Hi, though.
oh, hey. That's always great. Thank you. Okay, the 3 questions are in the chat. It's 6:26. We're going to do this till about 6:35. I wasted one of your minutes. I'm sorry. I hope you started early. And I'll just put on some music to write by.
Niger women got the melanin dripping. LONDON city girl living in the back looking like fire chili pepper. Yoruba girl tougher than imperial leather. He was getting bitter while she was getting better. Diamonds are forever. Miss Sierra Leone looking like a gem. Works hard in the week, party on the weekend. Know you wanna live with no one watching how you spend. Got a thing for the finer things and the finer men. Miss Tanzania, she a do or die. Says she wanna know more about the Sukuma tribe. We hit the zoo, once wasn't enough. Got an ocean full of knowledge, you could scuba dive. Miss Ethiopia can play so jazzy. They sit you down to school, you want Selassie. Tell them you're nothing without a woman, no. Woman to woman, I just wanna see you glow. Tell them what's up.
Because I can't teach with other. Is it okay for me to like come back when it's time? Because I honestly can't think with all the music. I know most people probably can't, but I don't want to miss anything. But I'm wondering if I can just mute you or something and come back at the time.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question also.
Okay.
Can I get like a understanding of what exactly this Zoom is about? Like a breakdown?
Okay.
What are the things we're going to discuss and go over on the Zoom?
So we're going to talk a little bit about environmental justice and the impacts of environmental racism on communities of color, especially as it relates to the medical industrial complex and how herbalism can be a response to injustices that mostly affect communities of color. That's going to be the second part of the first half. And then after the break, we're going to talk about some common herbs and how they can be used medicinally for different preparations.
You said we're going to be talking about various herbs and what else?
How they can be used, what they are good for, and how they can be used in medicinal preparation.
And that's the second part of the Zoom.
Well, there'll be some breaks so that folks aren't sitting until 8:30. So it's just after a break.
Do you know how what break that'll be? So I could come back then? Because I'm also trying to infuse herbs while on here and watch kids.
Okay. Let's see.
But I don't want to miss any important information.
So
This
We-
class is being recorded, so if you do miss something, you'll receive a copy of the recording afterwards, so you can always go back to it. So don't stress
Okay.
yourself about missing anything. If you have to step away, you'll get a copy of the recording as well.
Okay, great. Thank you guys.
Oh, yep, you're welcome.
And I'll just keep the music off since it sounds like a few people are, wanting a more quiet atmosphere in which to write. That's perfectly fine. And we have about 4 more minutes.
Hey, Lottie. I'm sorry I popped in late, but I'm wondering what was the check-in question or the question we should be answering right now?
Who just asked that question? Well, I'm sorry, I didn't see who asked the question, but the questions are in the chat. I think Lottie is about to type it out again, or. But if
I
you check
think
the chat, you'll see them.
joined late. Yeah, I missed the questions in the chat because I joined late.
Okay,
if-
I can read them all for you. It says, who was your first connector to plants as medicine? That's number 1. The other one is, where did you first connect to plants as medicine? And the third was, in what way have plants shown up for you? And I'm gonna copy these and post them again for you all.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. I see the answers are starting to come in.
And we have about a minute left for you to collect your final words. Oh, and I see some folks are putting theirs in the chat. Wonderful.
Mhm. I think it starts with Lakita Travis.
Okay, so what we're going to do is if folks are moved to share a little bit of their way of coming to herbs, I do see a few in the chat. Lakita, I hope I'm saying that correctly, Lakita Travis, my great grandparents and
It's
aunts.
Laquetta.
connected-
Sorry,
Did I say that right?
Laquetta.
I think you're
Yeah, she's saying Laquetta.
Laquetta. Okay, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
It's a new dawn.
Oh, I'm
It's a
sorry.
new
Okay.
And Laquetta, if you want to go ahead and talk about what you wrote down, you can do that.
Okay. Yeah, my great grandparents, they were from down south, so they brought their ways from Mississippi. So the castor oil, the certain herbal teas and everything. They used to make us eat dirt and, and all of that. But
Oh, wow.
that was, I learned about herbs and everything through that process. And they all had gardens. And come to find out, they was all growing weed in their gardens.
Okay.
Or
They knew.
cannabis. But
Yeah.
yes.
They knew. They knew. Does anyone else want to share what they wrote or what their thoughts?
Yeah, I think who do we have next? I see Dwayne Smith. Did you want to go ahead and share?
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Dwayne.
Yeah, well, kind of like Laquetta, you know, it was the grandparents who brought all that old-timey stuff to to my youthful life. You know, the stomach ache, it was the castor oil, the worms, it was the sugar and lemon. What was it?
Turpentine.
Yeah, turpentine. Yeah, turpentine and sugar. Oh, see, everybody knows about that, right? You know, the toothache was the clove oil, right? You know, yeah, and the drop for the ear, I forget which one that was, sweet oil or something like that. Yeah, and so yeah, so it was the grandparents, they're the guilty parties.
Awesome. All right. Yep, I see your hand raised, Yolanda. I think I have 2 people ahead of you, then you'll be next, okay? So we have Emily. Did you want to go ahead and share? Emily, are you still here? All right, we'll come back to Emily. How about, is it Andrika? Am I saying that right? Andrika Young, did you want to share?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, just like everyone else, for my grandparents and my mother, growing up, we didn't go to the doctor. So we used things, herbs, you know. Back then you can go to the store, pause cut rate, and get everything you needed. And a jar of herbs, castor oil, turpentine, lemon. Lemon was a key. You always had lemons. That was like bread in the household, having lemons. And that was my key to gardening, period, was my grandparents.
Great.
Yeah. Mhm.
Awesome.
All right, Yolanda, you are up next. Go right ahead.
You're muted, Yolanda, if you're talking.
Yolanda?
She said her mic doesn't
Yeah.
work, so she missed.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Next up, we have Joe Jess. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, that's how you say it.
Okay, go right ahead.
I guess I could share. My mother was probably the one who was my first connector. She like taught me about a bunch of stuff between like practical application, like using aloe and like talking about ancestral ways of using particular like tree bark that contained like, I don't remember if it was aspirin or something similar, but like all kinds of stuff like that. She talked about plants as spiritual, like as a spiritual thing that we're all connected to. And I don't know, that kind of played into my early ideas about spirituality in general. But are we just talking about the first one for now?
Oh, any of them. Oh, most people did answer just the first one, but feel free to.
I mean, she taught me how to use aloe and how to cut it and to use the parts that are darker and older because they've got like a higher concentration of medicinal compounds in it or whatever. And she took me into the woods and stuff like that. I don't know like how I can get through the tough times without like going out into the woods and stuff like that. And I need my cup of tea to get through a work day. So that's basically all I got.
Awesome, that's great.
Thank you so much.
All right, we have a few more. Ali, would you like to share?
Oh no, I was just commenting about the club cigarettes as a teenager.
Oh
So
yeah,
someone else
okay.
said club.
All right.
Thank you.
Then we have Patricia Ing. Would you like to share? No, Patricia. I think we have a few more. Did you want to get the next
Oh,
few?
yes. Hello.
Oh,
Can you hear
Patricia,
me?
okay, go right ahead.
Okay. Yes. With my grandmother, she always talked about her brother, who they referred to as the medicine doctor, because he used to make a lot of different herbal mixtures. And the way, the place for the connector, I would go into the woods with my grandmother when she was always making tea, and we had to have garlic, and lemon was always around the house.
All right, that's cool. All right, Rukia, I'm gonna go ahead. You have your hand raised. Am I saying that right,
Yeah.
Rukia?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I feel like it was more so indirectly. Like I remember my mom would tell me about the different tinctures and concoctions that her mom would make using herbs and different things that I'm sure was passed on from my great grandma, but I never had experiences with those things directly. I think for me, it was more so like ancestrally how I got introduced to it a few years back. Like I just randomly started getting curious just about herbalism, like the healing benefits of it. And I think in some ways like that came from my great grandparents. And I just explored that way, but it was always indirectly for me. Like I would hear my mom talk about the nasty, like the castor oil and the things that she never wanted to take, but like I never registered at that time that they were like healing modalities through like natural, provided naturally. Yeah, it just clicked for me later in life. But yeah, now it shows up for me. Like I started growing mint a few years back, and from there I just started branching out and trying to learn that way. It also like shows up for me on like my altar and learning of like different herbs and their importance there and teas, and that's it for now. But yeah, just finding my way through curiosity that I believe was given ancestrally.
Nice.
All right, it looks like we have two more in the chat we can go ahead and take. We have Marianne Dunmeyer.
Mhm.
I can't oh, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, most of it, at least the start came from my parents. My dad always had a garden, especially his tomatoes were his pride and joy. And he was a farm boy from Western Pennsylvania, just that somehow got transplanted to Detroit. And we always had a clump of chives outside the back door. And in fact, I still have some of the plants from that very same clump
Oh, wow.
that I moved with me. And The other thing was, the lady that lived next door to us, she had a farm out near Jackson, and she'd always come back in the fall with bushel baskets full of elderberries. And my mom would make elderberry jelly. So those are like my earliest memories of connections to plants. And especially now that I know more about the uses of something like elderberries and the onion family and things like that. That's it.
Thank you.
Great. That's good. Up next, we have Angela Lugo.
Yeah, she wants to just
Aussie.
listen.
Oh yeah, crazy.
Yeah, but she made a nice long. I can
Yeah.
read. She talked about her experience not having being able to remember the first connection, but growing up in Puerto Rico, surrounded by plants, and how her mom tells her about an elder taking her through the rainforest, pointing out all the medicinal plants, and using herbal remedies for as long as she can remember, loving nature and plants and really missing their beauty in Puerto Rico, and has been a gardener at home for 15 seasons. I didn't know it was that long, Angela. Okay. Wow, that is awesome. And okay, we have one more and you're gonna have to take us home. So you are the last comment.
Thank you so much, Lottie, for inviting us to answer these questions. I'm going to share the answer to the last question. I wrote all the ways: belonging, food, medicine, beauty, support, kinship, joy, love, ancestrally, healing. Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a great segue. So I did that exercise because often, well, first of all, I want to know, it's hard on Zoom to create an interactive experience where we're all like learning about each other, and everyone brings so much knowledge, their own knowledge into the room. No matter where you are in the process or how you got there, it's valuable. And I just wanted us all to really be able to see or take that moment to reflect on the gifts that we all have and the richness of this, room that we're in. So let me just get back here to the slides, find them. Here we go. And yeah. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Go back one. So I had this slide up. This is the segue because this is the answer to those questions for myself. Because my grandmother had like a little, I can remember her giving me like a lemon honey sort of concoction that she would, give me if I had a cough or something like that. But I didn't really grow up hearing about herbal remedies. It just seemed like it was something that, as my family migrated up here from Mississippi and wanted to become a part of this great migration, this new thing, they seemed to be really intent on leaving some of that stuff behind. And I've read about that in some of the books that I've been reading, how we often lose a whole generation because some folks don't want that old-timey stuff, or they don't trust that old ways, or they don't want to do that. And so I don't know if that was the case with my family, but I'll just say that that's not how I entered herbalism. I never actually thought this would become my passion, but I was caregiver for my mother for many, many years. And this begins to talk about environmental justice, the medical system. She had a number of things going on with her that a lot of us, our communities, are facing. She had high blood pressure, she had diabetes, she was wheelchair bound from complications with diabetes, and she had dementia. So I was her primary caregiver for many years. And we really were on this merry-go-round of go to the doctor, get another prescription, go to the doctor, get another prescription, go to the doctor, there's side effect, get another prescription. And I remember feeling so disempowered, like that I really couldn't do anything for my loved one. And I remember, like, as a teenager, I used to get like the Dong Quai tea for like my menstrual cramps, and I kind of just some preliminary stuff. I just was like, I don't want to take all these pills, but I really didn't know a lot about herbal medicine. And through my food justice work, I happened to go to you might be familiar with Nikki's ginger tea, which is in Whole Foods now. And she started in the basement of, now I'm forgetting the name of the church of the Messiah on the east side. So she started in the basement of that church. And we used to do, in our food justice work, we used to do a program called Cook, Eat, Talk. And we were over at Church of the Messiah doing a Cook, Eat, Talk. And she talked about this smoothie that when her sister got diagnosed with breast cancer, this smoothie of hemp oil, calcium, magnesium, kale, and certain fruits really helped her nutrition get back on point. And I was like, oh, I could do that. I can do that. So there's my mother with her little smoothie right there. I came back and went and got my hemp oil, my calcium, magnesium, and started making her these smoothies. So that just made me start investigating other things. So I had started giving her pure shea butter on her. She would get bed sores, and pure shea butter. First I'd tap them with aloe vera gel, and then just pure shea butter. I like wave them dry, like with my hands. And her visiting nurse would say, like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. But the main thing was the fact that she had been prescribed so much medicine, so many of these medicines and painkillers, that her lining of her stomach was pretty much destroyed. And she was in a lot of pain all the time. She would take Mylanta before meals, Mylanta after meals. It was very painful. She had sores on her knees from like bumping into a cabinet or something that just wouldn't heal, because a diabetic, the immune system, when it's compromised, your healing doesn't happen. And diabetic wounds are very hard to heal. So I started giving her a combination of aloe vera juice. It's a brand called Lakeland, which doesn't have citric acid in it. Aloe vera juice, stevia, lemons, and water, like a lemonade. And I was giving it to her for her stomach. And what happened was, after a couple weeks, now she had dementia, so our conversations could be a little disjointed sometimes. But after a few weeks, I remember she wheeled over to me and she was like, that stuff you giving me is healing me from the inside out. And I was like, Mom, what you talking about? And she was like, look at my knees. Look at my knees. And her knees were actually healed up. And then the next thing I noticed, by her having dementia, the pain would trigger her to remember taking her Mylanta. When the pain started to go away, she wasn't reaching for the Mylanta. All of a sudden, she wasn't drinking the Mylanta before her meals or after her meals. And I remember finally going to her doctor or one of the many trips to her doctor. And mainstream medicine, they don't really want to admit anything, right? So he finally like sort of eased over to me and was like, whatever you doing, keep doing. And then he was like, you ain't heard it from me. Because no matter what I would come and say, I'd always say, do we have to have another prescription? Do we have to do, and he would just, write the prescription. So I say all that to say, that was my herbal empowerment experience. I finally felt empowered to do something for my family. Like I didn't feel like I was at the mercy of the medical industrial complex. And that, along with work at the time, I was working for an environmental justice organization. Those two things together are what set the stage for my entry into herbalism. Because like I said, I didn't have this history, I didn't have this lineage. I mean, I probably did. I shouldn't say I didn't. It just wasn't known to me, because I think now I've tapped back into that for sure. So that's the way I came. That's one of the ways that I came to being an herbalist. And there were a lot more details to it, but let's see here. Let me just check my time here. Oops. Okay. So the other thing I want to point out is, oh, yes, nice messages here about other folks' experiences with herbs. Yeah, I want to add to that what Yolanda just said about her mom having a stroke and brought herbs to the hospital. Oh, and she walked out walking and talking. That's what's up. Another little tip was the role of aromatic herbs when dealing with people with dementia. Now, like I said, my mother would kind of get caught in these mental loops where she would, try to pick up the same piece of paper off the floor over and over again, or not remember how to put her clothes on. Aromatic herbs, so anything with an aroma, it could be lavender, vanilla, whatever your favorite thing is. Aromatics bring us back present. They call us back into our body. It's funny how aromatics also work from the past into the present. Because you know how a scent can take you right back to a day, a time, a place, a person, but it also brings you present. Like you can be moseying through the store and all of a sudden catch a whiff of fresh baked cookies. And you're like, what was that? Okay, wait a minute, hold on, what was that? Like, let me go see what that is. So I found that working with dementia, with my mother having dementia, that always having like a little roll on of an oil or fresh lavender or something, I could put it in her hands or put it on her wrists and then just tell her, breathe with me for a minute, mommy, breathe with me for a minute. And it would help her come back into herself. So that's just a good point that, and as I was observing how her healing was going. So so like I was saying earlier, my background is in multimedia and environmental justice, food justice. So I come to this work by way of social justice. Yes, I use herbalism for my family. Yes, I find it fun and relaxing. And I also, immediately when I started taking herbalism classes, so to be honest, I've been an activist in Detroit for over 15 years. Another aspect of my road to herbalism was one of burnout and heartbreak. You get tired. People can't be in the front line forever without experiencing the trauma to their body to their soul, to their relationships often, to just everything. Like you just cannot be on 100 all the time. So I had a complete, both of my parents by this time had passed away. I got laid off from the environmental organization. The city was in emergency management, bankruptcy, just a complete upheaval of justice going on. And the most major thing was, if you're a Detroiter, the Hance Farm land grab had just happened. And I remember it was in December. I don't remember the year, but it sat me down. It sat me down and I said, okay, I can't do this no more. And a friend of mine had an herbalism class and we made some shea butter. And I was like, what is this? What is this happening here? What is it? Okay. So I was like, this is great. And that paired with coming off of what my mother had done, I was like, is this something? Is this a class? I can take this class. So I was escaping activism by going to do herbalism. I thought I was gonna go, I don't know what I thought, but I went and took an intensive herbalism class and was like, wow. And sure enough, but see, this is the way the universe works. I wasn't in that class three classes before somebody asked me about, what's going on in Detroit? Like, why are they like that? I was like, oh, what? I was like, what you mean? So I had to quickly shift gears into, what do you mean? This is systemic. Let me explain to you. Food justice, have you heard about food justice? Okay, what about environmental justice? What about? And so, yeah. I got called back. And then the people that were supporting me learning herbalism, my mentors had also told me, you go get that information and bring it back because we need it. We need it here. And I was like, okay. So I had my marching orders. And so I do believe herbalism can restore community health. But I can't talk about the prospects of herbal healing in our communities without talking about environmental justice, environmental racism, and unpacking some of the privileges that are within herbalism. Because the more you learn, the more you learn. And unfortunately, the more you learn, it's the same. White supremacy is the same, it's the same song, it's the same thing everywhere. So, dig deep enough, you're gonna get to it. So let me just check my time. So I'm just gonna do a brief definition of environmental justice. What we're talking about here, like I've already touched on before, is the environmental justice. One aspect of it is air quality. We have our medical industrial complex and Detroit. So this is the long definition. Basically, it's a response to environmental racism. Communities of color and low-income communities have been and continue to be disproportionately exposed to and negatively impacted by pollution, hazardous industrial practices, the water is contaminated, or our land is contaminated and sold out from under us. Like there's this constant attack on all of our resources, from land use, land acquisition, like I said, water, fresh water, water shutoffs, and air quality. So one of the things I had to realize is that when I started working in environmentalism, I thought of the environment as being something that was over there. The environment was like somewhere over there. Like the narratives that we get about the environment are often like the polar bears or the rainforest. Or we don't often think, and look, it took me a long time to understand that environment is where you live, work, play, pray. You know, it is everything around us. So I began to realize that by making me believe that people talk about, environmentalism or being green or being eco-friendly. And I think they somehow think that's a movement that is like I said, over there, but it's really in our own backyard. So, like I said, the environmental injustices that are present in Detroit are many, from water contamination, compromised water infrastructure, price gouging, monopolized water resources where they buy up all the water and then bottle it and sell it right back to us. Land grabbing, we do force out by foreclosure. We are now in the process of getting our, Black-owned co-op grocery store back. But in 2014, the state's only African-American grocery store closed and was replaced by a big box store, a Meijer. So, and not to mention for a long time, we had the second largest trash incinerator in the world. And it just closed in 2019. And when it was built, the EPA had already estimated that it would cause up to, in 1986 is when it was built, they said based on the release of toxins, it would cause up to 36 cancer deaths for every 1 million Detroiters. But in 1990, they found the levels were 1,000 times the Environmental Protection Agency's limit. 1,000 times. And this has increased for Detroiters, especially lead poisoning, asthma, and cancer, especially among low-income African-American residents. So, and they're a burden on families that are already medically underserved, misdiagnosed, and not taken seriously. So when I think of herbalism, it's much more, so for me, this is a way that I hope we can, folks learning about the healing medicines that are right in their own backyard, especially those that contribute to respiratory health, those that help us step off of the medical industrial complex, even for a little while. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't go to the doctor. Like, trust me, don't put a leaf on my broken leg. Don't wrap my heart in some plants, okay, if I'm having a heart attack. Western medicine has its place. But there's so much we can do for ourselves and for our families before we get there, or to supplement what is going on. So like I said, I look at herbalism. It's fun. I love it. I respect it. And I also see it. I see the more people that have access to or decide to grow medicinal herbal gardens, this is a way to raise awareness, increase civic engagement, and put practical solutions in the hands of our communities. Because if you ask people to advocate for themselves and they have to choose between, I can't even breathe, I'm not comfortable, my children aren't comfortable, I'm not going to your meeting. I'm not going to, you know what I mean? I can't take the time to do that. So anyway, as you can see, I get kind of worked up about it, but that's the lens through which I'm approaching herbalism. And it's not the only lens, of course, but it is, it's one of them. So I've talked a lot. We're going to take a break. It's a little after 7. Naja, did you want to do Q&A now, a Q&A now, or how did you want to?
We can jump into a Q&A now. If anyone has any questions or comments that you wanted to add, based on what Lottie just spoke about, her experiences with herbal medicine and how, she was influenced and, what inspired her to, pursue herbal medicine and environmental justice. So if you would like to hear some feedback, or if you have questions for Lottie, now is the time.
I just want to say, hi, my name is LaQuetta. I just want to say, first, thank you for sharing and thank you for your work. Some of your reasonings and the things that you found in your journey, those are the same things that I guess led me here today also. I'm a survivor of violent crime in the city. I've always paid attention to like certain things like the chemtrails and everything, and just tracked like the cycles of violence and kind of connected it all back to our environment. And when I became victimized and went through my court process which left 2 serial rapists free on the streets, I'm a survivor of the rape kit backlog. So when I came out of court, that spawned my community activism. I fight for public health and safety. I do rape kit backlog reform. And I'm at a level now where I'm fighting to change the legislation that kind of green lights these things to happen on our levels. But also as a trauma survivor, I've been trying to find my own ways, and everything that I found that helped me has been spiritual, holistic, herbalist. Like I don't take the medications I'm supposed to for PTSD and things of that, because I found herbs and teas and other things that help. So I just want to learn as much as I can through this course so I can implement it in my nonprofit organization that I'm currently building, Healing Action Network Detroit. So I can help heal the city, because that's what we need.
Thank you so much for your transparency and willingness to share. It's a powerful, painful story. And I'm so sorry that was your experience. We're blessed to have you fighting still, being able to fight. So thank you. Thank you so much for that share.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for that, LaQuetta. Would anyone else like to share or have any questions for Lottie? I see we had a few comments in the chat as she was speaking. Let's see if we can go through those. Have a message. A lot of thank yous. Everyone is thanking you, LaQuetta. Yep, the intersections of environmental justice and herbs is very important. Yep, I agree. Western medicine should work together with herbs like it used to. So
it certainly should. And I don't want to, that could be a whole class. I was so surprised to learn at how intentionally that separation was made. It was enforced with criminalization of practicing your own medicine. There could be a whole class. Thank you, Yolanda, for that.
All right, Alyssa, am I saying your name right? I see your hand raised.
Yeah, you said it right. I wanted to say thank you for sharing your origins with herbalism, Lottie, and speak a little bit on the Western medicine and herbalism front as someone who's currently studying to be a physician and doctor. It was really lovely to hear your story and your experience caregiving with your mom, because I always think it's amazing to hear when family members advocate for those that are very sick and are able to utilize their own knowledge to better help them than physicians can most of the time. And I'm glad you had a decent experience where the physician recognized that you were doing a better job than they probably could and allowed you to do that, because a lot of physicians, my classmates, they need that humbling experience to take their ego back and allow themselves to learn more and be open to more experiences. And the separation is very intentional. For dementia and Alzheimer's, the gold standard of treatment is turkey tail tea. Like there's no pharmaceutical agent that at all reaches the healing capacity that turkey tail tea has to restore memory, but they don't teach us that in classroom. They will hide that knowledge and you have to find that knowledge on your own because that ruins the industrial complex.
I
You
put
said
your,
turkey tail tea.
I just put it in the chat, turkey
Okay.
tail tea, turkey tail mushroom. Don't be out here sneaking up behind no turkeys, y'all. Out
Turkey tail mushrooms. Okay, I'm
on
right.
little wild turkeys walking around like, hey, what happened? Like, no, turkey tail mushroom. Thank you for sharing that. I get so excited when, I was excited when I started teaching herbalism classes and had nurses. This is my first med student, I think, in the class. But having nurses in class because folks are realizing that there have to be, you know, better way. I won't say better. I'm gonna say better, but more truly integrated, holistic health approaches, because we can't keep doing what we've been doing, you know. So thank you so much. Rukia, you're gonna have to get on your, now you tried to grow turkey tail mushrooms. Keep trying. We need you. We need you to be the mushy woman. Yep, lion's mane is great. Cordyceps is also good for brain functionality. And I found in my post-COVID, it helped restore energy and things like that too. So cordyceps, mushrooms, I'm not talking about, you know, I'm just talking about, I'm not. But cordyceps, lion's mane, I didn't know, I knew about turkey tail for other things, but thank you for that.
Great. And everyone, if you want to, you can check the chats. Ali has left a link for help with dealing with the medical industry. So if you're interested in that, that is in the chat.
Sweet.
All right. Anyone else want to go ahead and chime in? All right.
Hi, I just wanted to say I'm a resident physician in family medicine, and I totally agree with everything y'all have been saying. It's so nice to learn more about things that we don't have the opportunity to learn in medical school, and especially in primary care. You know, we're all about prevention and trying to get people as healthy as possible. So, you know, I'm really excited to learn more, and thankfully our program has a good emphasis on learning more about medicines that aren't just prescriptions. So hoping to take all this information back and hopefully make some physicians you know, that could take better care of people.
Thank you so much, Natalie. That's exciting. So that's exciting. Do you know, it's so exciting to have, because I think there was a time, I mean, I don't have dates or timeline when this, you know, wouldn't have happened, you know, like us all in the room together. So that's exciting to me, very. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So go ahead.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, I don't think we have any more questions or comments, so we can move forward if you like.
Okay, how are folks feeling? Do folks want to take a break or do we want to keep it moving? We do have until 8:30, so just want to be mindful of biological break. Take it if you need it, or we can keep going, and we can keep going. I see a nod from Gail and a nod from Mary Ann. I guess that means, does that mean keep going? Okay, well, see, I think Gail and Mary Ann have set the tone, so we're gonna keep moving. Like soul to
Got
soul.
some thumbs up, so
Yeah.
I think we're good, yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So what I'm gonna do then, I relied on a break to go get my stuff, but I will go get it. So I'm gonna grab, let me put what I'll do is put my slide up and I'm gonna grab a few things. I do want to share also, before we go too far, these are gonna be in the slides, if you get the slides afterward. But this book here, I want to share some book resources in case folks want to do some reading. This is Working the Roots by Michelle E. Lee. This is it's more so a collection of stories of herbalists that were in her family and beyond. And it really does a good job of illustrating the environmental injustice that has occurred around golden seal, over harvesting. And it's mentioned so much throughout this book, but it's a very good book. Another book, if you're
Can you
interested.
say the name of that book again so I can put it in the chat?
Yep. Working the Roots by Michelle E. Lee.
Okay.
Another good book, if you're interested in Detroit history as it relates to environmental injustices and other movement work that really is the background, like we've been talking about. This is A People's Atlas of Detroit. This was created by all local people, all powerful people in the urban agriculture movement, in the fight against gentrification, in the fights around land ownership and displacing elderly citizens. I mean, it really is a valuable, valuable book that was made, like I said, by community collecting stories and putting it together. And it's called A People's Atlas of Detroit. I'll have to put in there who it was edited by, because it's a team of editors. And I just want to share this right quick, if you can see this. This is the map of asthma concentration. The top color, the beige, is what the state average is, which is fewer than 15 cases per 10,000 people. And the color gets darker. And then you get to Detroit, it's over 60 cases by 10,000 people. You can see how dark, how it gets in Detroit. This is a very valuable work here. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some herbs. We're gonna talk about some herbs now. So I gotta step away, but I'll be right back. I'll BRB.
Well, while we wait for Lottie to return, anybody want to talk about an herb that they use daily or something that they use, incorporate in their morning practices? Go ahead, so.
So I have been blessed by Pachamama with a dill forest in my garden. And so I have an abundance of dill and I'm using it every day and I just it's my sweet baby.
Awesome. Anyone else? Go ahead, Gail. I'm gonna ask you unmute yourself.
Okay, I can't do the chat. Something's happening over there with me trying to chat.
Okay.
But I want to share this with everybody. It's called Angelica tea. My mother and grandmother, my grandmother was doctor in Alabama for anybody sick. So then, we got Cherokee Indian, so we growing everything on the land in Alabama. when my mother was a child. And so she brought it right to Detroit with us when we were sick. She'd pour you something in a glass and say, drink it down and you'd be well in a few minutes. And so with the Angelica tea, it relaxes every nerve in your body. People, I'm trying to tell these people that's getting high off all this weed and this stuff, it's something better than that. And it's Angelica. It will relax you and calm you down. You'll be just as mellow, but you won't be high. You'll be natural, relaxed and comfortable and not stressed out. Even if your two best friends were fighting, you'd be like this. Y'all need to stop. So everybody get some Angelica. I keep jumping in.
Okay, let me write that down.
Angelica, like the angels.
Okay.
Yeah. Really, it's cousin to the marijuana plant. People don't know that it's his cousin, but it don't get you messed up, you know.
Okay.
I'm trying to tell these people smoking that new weed that's about to drive everybody crazy to leave that stuff alone. Told two young men in my neighborhood, I got something better than that. What you got, Miss Sweet? I say, it's called Angelica. I don't know if you can smoke it, but I know you can drink it. And so I don't know. They won't stop smoking that stuff. Okay.
Thank you, Gail. That was great.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that shit. That was awesome.
Yeah, I got a lot of more.
Yes, I would like you. And see, these are the stories we need to start capturing because we don't want to lose this valuable history. So consider talking with us more.
All right, we're gonna jump back in it with Lottie. We'll come back to our daily herbs.
Okay, so let's see here. Am I pinned here? So one of the main aspects of environmental justice often is about access. Do people have access to what they need? So what I'm going to talk about, these are just a few herbs because I'm going to tell you, these are easily, readily available, usually in a generous quantity. And it is, in my opinion, better to know a few herbs really, 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 really well than to get caught up in, like, I know how to say the Latin names of 50 herbs and or feeling competitive or insufficient because you only work with a few herbs. That's a illusion that doesn't really serve us well. Now, if you learn a whole lot of herbs, that's great. But depending on what your needs are, or your family's needs, or what's right around you, just keep in mind that it can be better to learn a few herbs really well. And the first one, so I went out here with my own little hands and and gathered up some herbs for us today. Like I said, trying to make this as interactive as possible. And let's see, now they're all mystery bundles. What do I have here? Okay, so the first one, how am I gonna do this? Okay, is plantain. I know that looks crazy. This is not like the Caribbean banana fruit. That is a different family altogether. But this is plantain. This is what you call, there's narrow leaf plantain and broadleaf plantain. The broadleaf plant, I actually have one of them, but it's kind of a weird shaped leaf. But you can see it's just more, I don't know why it's crunched right here, but it's more of a round leaf. Narrow leaf, broadleaf, they can be used interchangeably. Now, the way that you identify this plant is it is one of the few, if not only, I'm not sure if it's the only, but it's these really strong vertical ribs. Now, you know, most leaves sort of have a branching out of the veins. Well, plantain in the broad and narrow leaf have very strong vertical ribs that go from the base all the way to the tip. It grows in a rosette, sort of flat to the ground. I do have a picture of plantain. Let me pull it up, a better picture than this. So as you can see now, that picture is of the broadleaf plantain there, and it grows pretty flat to the ground. And its flower, so to speak, is the narrow, skinny, sort of, I don't know what texture you want to call it, growing up from the middle of it. Plantain is what I call a humble powerhouse. This is, if you don't get to know any other herb, this is one that's worthwhile to know. It also goes by white man's footprint. It's called that because it was, now there are native species to this area, but a lot came over from Europe, and it has a tendency to grow in disturbed places. So plantain is going to show up in your driveway. It's going to show up in the least soft place. Here comes plantain. And let's just talk about it raw. It is, if you get a bee sting, a mosquito bite, a cut or a wound, you can take this leaf and clean it as best as you can, depending on the severity of the emergency. Chew it up, and you can spit that blob. It's called a spit poultice. You can spit that out and put it directly on a bee sting. Now that's not for like an anaphylactic response to a bee sting. This is just a regular old, this hurts and it's about to swell up kind of bee sting. I know that from experience. I encroached on some bees and they politely tried to tell me to get on, and I didn't. And they just let me know. They stung me right here. Ooh, right here. What? And I chewed up my plantain leaf, plopped it on here. And it's funny because I had been studying herbalism for a couple years at that point, but you know how we do. I was like, y'all know this stuff works. I was like, because I had absolutely no swelling or anything. So my grandson is allergic to mosquito bites and he really swells up a lot. So I would grandma chewing up a leaf and slapping it on his forehead, but it really helped with the swelling. So it's a great first aid herb externally. So what that means is you can, like I said, use it fresh. You can dry it and put it in an infused oil, like olive oil, and make it into a salve. It's key in a first aid salve. It is great. I see someone talking about eczema. Yes, good for eczema. It's good for itchy, irritated and hot skin conditions. So poison, yes, cat scratches. It'd be great for cat scratches. It would be great. It helps to stop the itching and spread of poison ivy. It helps to dry out a rash so it can heal. It's great to stop the spread of ringworm or shingles. Like I said, bee stings, spider bites. And if you were interested in learning how to make a first aid salve, it is definitely one, even if it's just a plantain salve, I shouldn't even say it like that. Even if it's just, even if it only has plantain as its main ingredient, that is a powerful but gentle healing salve. So plantain is what is called a tissue vulnerary, vulnerary, I think, vulnerary. That means it's healing to the tissues. I will look up the spelling while I'm talking, but it is healing vulnerary. Yeah, Vulnerary, vulnerary. So it's healing to the tissues. Like I was explaining about healing a wound on the outside, but it does it on the inside too. So plantain is an excellent tea. You can make it into a tincture, tinctured in alcohol, but you can make it as a tea also. So if it's healing to the tissues, let's think about that. It could be used as a mouthwash, as for gums, for bleeding gums. It is good for sore throat. It's good for acid reflux because that's another hot, irritated condition. I learned plantain, the catchphrase that always stuck with me is that it's good from the mouth to the south. So that means it's good for the irritations to the gastrointestinal tract. It is moisturizing, so that's called a demulcent. It's moisturizing for gastrointestinal issues, acid reflux, ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome. You could make a sitz bath. You could brew a lot of plantain tea and use it as a sitz bath for hemorrhoids. It's great for postpartum healing as a bath, a sitz bath. The other thing that's interesting about plantain is it's great. It's a great respiratory herb. So it's great as the tea for, sometimes you can get, if your mucus is feeling like really stuck and hard to move and hard to, not so much as an expectorant, but it just seems to thin it out to where it can come up better. Maybe that is an expectorant, but it doesn't seem to make you cough. So plantain is just, like I said, a humble powerhouse of an herb. It's gentle. It's not something like some herbs are more symptomatic. So you take them for like until the situation is gone. So you only want to take them a week or 2 weeks or a day. Plantain is one that can be used in connection with other herbs in a formula. It could be, I put it in my smoothies. I've put the raw leaves in my smoothies, and you could eat them except for these vertical ribs are really stringy. And even if you steam the young leaves, they still are just kind of tough. It's just not the most pleasurable thing to eat. So, but they are edible. Like I said, you could put them in smoothies. You could blend it up in some water and freeze it in an ice cube tray. And then you would have it as a first aid, over the summer. So that's plantain. Now I have this jar here, and I should have been cutting this while I was talking, but I wasn't. But
can you talk about, you said it was called the white man's footprint, but you never said why.
I said it was called white man's footprint because it was brought over, a good portion, certain varieties were brought over by the Europeans when they came over to America. And that is evidence of like settlers, colonization, disturbing the land and putting down new structures and things like that. So it tends to show up in disturbed places. That's why I got that nickname.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'm cutting this with just some scissors. Like I said, I should have been cutting it all along. And this herbalism is a very forgiving medicine. So all I'm doing is cutting my fresh plantain. And I'm just putting it in this here mason jar. And you could just tear it. I mean, we don't have to be, you could use dried. If you use dried, it's got to be double the amount of fresh. And we're going to make an infused vinegar. This is like a spring tonic vinegar, and it's just one. I just wanted to be able to demonstrate one medicinal preparation for you. The next one I'm going to talk about is one that a lot of people might be familiar with, but it's still great. And that is catnip. Catnip is very generous, usually in backyards and alleyways and just all over the place. So I'm trying to hold it still so you can really see the leaf structure. Heart-shaped leaves that have the pointy scallops all around them. Catnip has sort of a musky mint smell to it, and it has a velvety, it's not like spearmint or peppermint. These leaves have a velvety finish touch to them. Catnip is in the mint family. One way for you to identify the mint family, I hope you can see this, is the square stem. All the mints in the mint family have a square stem, like motherwort, which isn't an aromatic mint, catnip, which isn't even called a mint, peppermint, spearmint, there are others, but I mean like 90-degree angle square stem, not square-ish, it's square. Catnip is usually, now this is another one that can be infused in oil or made into a tincture or a tea or a vinegar. Catnip is really good for gastrointestinal situations. It's good for people that hold their anxiety or it shows up in their stomach, like people that get butterflies in their stomach or, get so nervous about speaking that they're about to throw up. It is very calming, but gentle. It is great for acid reflux. It is also a tea that's good for drug or nicotine withdrawal. It helps to ease that internal tension and stress that comes with withdrawal symptoms. It's good for soothing the system if you've been on prescription drugs for a long time. You could use it in the bathtub. You could like literally put the fresh herbs in the bathtub. You could brew it as a tea. It's good for, so another thing it's good for is female, like premenstrual tension, menstrual cramps. So therefore it is contraindicated during pregnancy, especially in the first trimester, because it can bring on your menstrual cycle or it could cause a miscarriage. But if you're using it just, for cramps, you could, I've used this infused in oil and made it into a salve that a person could rub on their lower back, massage their lower back with the oil or with the salve. I used to give my daughter catnip tea when she was having cramps. She'd call me in a minute, even though she's 20, how old is she? 28. Mommy, I need some catnip tea. So I still send her the catnip tea. So it is a sedative and it's an antispasmodic. So when you think about what you're going to use this for, knowing that it's an antispasmodic and a nervine, it works on your nervous system and it works with spasmy type pain. That's good to know. Sometimes, if you eat the wrong thing, you'll get those spasms that your whole intestinal tract can start spasming. That would be something you might want to use catnip for. And it helps you sleep too. So I'm going to strip my leaves off of here. I'm not going to bother to tear these up. Do this so y'all can see this here.
While you're doing that, Michelle did have a question. Is there a difference with using catnip dry or fresh when putting it in oil or vinegar?
Thank you for that question. So yes, there is. The difference is going to be with any herb, really. If you're going to make an oil, you want to use dry herbs. You don't want any water to get into your oil. Now you can let them wilt like a couple of days, like 4 or 5 days. They don't have to be bone dry, but you definitely don't want them to be, introducing water into your oil. And some plants, you'll know, are just juicier than others, Some are really dry and then some have a lot of juice in them. So you always want dry for oils. The rule with vinegar, could you put enough herbs in there to make the acid too low? I've never had the problem. I've always made fresh herb infused vinegar with no problem, but you need less. Dry herbs are more concentrated than fresh herbs. So if you use a cup of fresh herbs, you would use 1/4 cup dry herbs. Just because they're more concentrated. If I were to dry this stick down, it'd probably be like a teaspoon of herbs, right? But it'd be the same. And that's for vinegar or alcohol. If it's dry, you're going to use 1/4 the amount. If it's fresh, you'll need about a cup, or you need to be about half and half. I'm sorry, that's probably not making sense. If it's fresh, you need it to be about half liquid, half herb. If it's dry, it's going to be about 1/4 herb to 3/4 liquid. I think that might be better. So I just put that in our jar. Ooh, so the next one we're going to talk about. I don't.
Can you show the picture real quick of the catnip again?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. Thank you. Here's catnip over here on the right. So you want to pay attention to those they're heart-shaped leaves. They are sort of deeply notched all the way around. And like I said, it definitely has an aroma, but it's going to be an earthy kind of, the first thing you would think of a soft mint like spearmint, but it also has like that earthy kind of funk underneath it. And a velvety texture. And a square stem. Oh, that's good. Yeah, almost pine. I could see pine. Emily said almost a piney smell. I could see that too.
Can I ask really quick something?
Yes.
I had to step away for a minute. I don't know if you talked about what you use your vinegars for, and if you did, that's okay. But
nope, you didn't miss anything. I am going to talk about vinegar when I get ready to pour the vinegar over here. I will talk a little bit about what I use the vinegars for. Okay.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. No problem. Let's see. The next thing we're going to talk about. Unfortunately, I don't have a. What did I do with it? I don't have it fresh. I'll show you a picture, but this is burdock root. This is dried burdock root. I will show you the picture of burdock root. I tried to dig some up, but if you've ever tried to dig up burdock root, I should not have waited until a half hour before class to call myself gonna dig up a burdock root, because it's a tap root and it can be as big as your arm. It's smaller than your arm, but it can definitely be about 2 feet long, and you have to just jump on in there and give it your best shot. So I didn't get the burdock root. But there's burdock, and you're probably familiar with burdock. It's such a lovely plant with these big, beautiful, almost like elephant ears. The leaves are not used, I won't say they're not used medicinally, but I've only heard of them being used like for burns, but I've never heard it. I've heard like anecdotal, like one person saying, one time I heard that. I haven't seen that. That doesn't mean that they're not true in their experience. I'm just saying I haven't experimented with it at all, the leaf. But the root, now, burdock is another one of those herbs that if you don't learn about but a handful of herbs, consider burdock as one of them. And you can find burdock if you're not ready to go dig it up. Trust me, if you're going to dig it up, you want to do it in the spring when the leaves, when it's about the size of like your 2 hands put together. Don't wait until it becomes that big old bush that's in that picture, because it is tougher then. And again, that taproot is going to be about 2 feet long and it's really hard to get out. But in the spring, it's ideal. They'll be about the size of a big carrot. Even when it's just a tiny little plant, it'll still be the size of a big carrot. If you're not ready to dig it up yourself, you can find it in a well-stocked grocery store, an Asian grocery store, especially under the name, they might have it as burdock root, they might have it as gobo, G-O-B-O, because it's cultivated as a food crop. And in Asia, it's cultivated as a food crop. So again, going back to these systemic ways that we're disconnected from things that could be healing and healthful to us. It's cultivated as a food crop. So burdock is in the thistle family. You might be familiar with those burrs, burdock, that gets stuck on everything. My dog, olive oil gets them out of your dog's hair. Pro tip. It is a blood cleanser, a blood purifier, a lymph mover. It moves your lymph. Your lymphatic system is really not talked about a lot in the way it keeps us healthy, but it does play a role in our immune system and in our health. And a lot of our illnesses are the result, and I think you may have heard phrases like things being stuck, you know, like it's just not moving, like the blood isn't moving, or the bile isn't moving, or, you know, it's just things are stuck. And your lymphatic system, or if you've heard of lymphatic drainage massage, things that have the lymph moving. Burdock root is a great lymph mover. It works to help normalize blood sugar levels. It helps remove calcification in the joints. It helps with muscle and joint pain. It helps to cleanse uric acid and waste from the system. It's what's called an alterative herb. Alterative herbs, their main goal is balance. They bring things back into balance. So if you take burdock root and I take burdock root, it's going to do different things because its goal is balance, bringing things back into balance. Burdock root is also a mild digestive bitter. Now, bitters are something in our diet that we have been just programmed out of bitters. Like if something's bitter, we're like, well, bitter, we don't like bitter. Bitters are key. Bitters, think about how come salad is served as the first course for dinner. That was to wake up your digestive system to say you're about to digest some fatty food or rich food, or just turn on your digestive system. We have our taste receptors, we have salty, sweet, sour, and bitter. I think there's another one, umami, I guess, I don't know. But bitter is the only taste bud that we have all the way down into our into our digestive tract. Now you might say, why would you have taste buds in your digestive tract? Well, that's because bitters act as a signal to the pancreas and the gallbladder and the digestive juices to start flowing. So when you add more bitters into your diet, it helps with overall health and digestion and elimination. But burdock, I see people saying like bitter for sure. Burdock is really not that bitter, y'all. I mean, you can stir fry it, you can dice it up. I wish I had, so like I said, the root is like a carrot, sort of like a woody carrot, a little tougher, but you can like chop it into like matchsticks or very thin slices and stir fry it. You can make burdock root pickles, like with ginger and soy sauce and garlic and all kinds of pickling herbs. You can make burdock pickles. Yes, it is awesome. It's really good. Burdock is best considered a food. And like someone said, food is medicine and burdock is best considered a food. So the bitters will stimulate and strengthen your digestive system. And it's a gentle, burdock is like, you can, again, these are the ones that you can have all the time. When I say all the time, I'm not talking about like, overindulging, but it's something like when you go to the grocery store, pick up some burdock, pick up some lemons, pick up some milk. Like, it's just like, it should be in the regular rotation. Burdock also includes what's called inulin. Inulin, oh. Someone just said you can cook food over a fire wrapped in burdock leaves. That's dope. That's cool. Or you could serve stuff on them. Thank you, Anthony. But burdock also has something called inulin, I-N-U-L-I-N. And that's good for the liver, the spleen, and the pancreas. So let's see. I mean, it is like, it's really, again, these are like the humble powerhouses. These are the things that are everywhere. Okay, Laquetta said repeat. It's good. It's inulin, I-N-U-L-I-N. And that is beneficial to the liver, the spleen, and the pancreas. So let's see. I mean, I have so many notes on burdock. I should, right now we're studying burdock in my Patreon, because in the Patreon group, we're doing a deep dive. Yes, inulin is a prebiotic, which feeds the good bacteria in your gut. So right now in Patreon, we're doing a deep study because I'm doing it by herb. And it's taking me so long to write up everything about burdock. The tea was Angelica DeAndrea asked about the tea that helps you relax. I think it was Angelica that you might be referring to. So yeah, burdock, like I said, is awesome. It helps, especially good with people that are suffering from like a long chronic illness. because again, it helps bring the body into a state of integration. And the quote is, burdock helps restore the primal blueprint of your body. And it's also just, like I said, full of protein, calcium, iron, potassium, selenium, manganese, vitamins A, B, C. It is just, like I said, a humble powerhouse, available in well-stocked grocery stores. I ordered it dried because as much as I want to be an herbalist that only uses what I grow, I can't keep up with the demand, my demand for burdock root, you know, in making medicine. So I did make it into a tincture here. The label is kind of funny because I was teaching my grandson and he's 8, and he wrote the label and then tore it and then put it on there anyway. But still, he's learning herbal medicine, y'all. And so this is just dried burdock root. So as you can see, it's expanded a little bit, but it was about 1/4 to 3/4 Everclear alcohol. And I'm gonna add some to our vinegar. So yes, you can mix dried and fresh together in a vinegar. And vinegars are very forgiving. I think that might have been a 1/4 cup. I think. Let me see. So yes, get some burdock in your life. The next readily accessible herb that everybody does know about already, but I cannot talk enough about. Hey, I'm teaching a class. Be quiet. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry. These dogs are like kids. Sorry. Go lay down. No. So I cannot speak enough about this humble powerhouse right here, which is dandelion. Dandelion. Now, the best thing about dandelion, well, it comes back in the spring. A spring tonic is great because, you know, back in the day, folks were eating highly salted or preserved or frozen things all winter. And then the spring herbs were a way to perk up their digestive system again. Now this is bitter. These leaves don't play. It's named dandelion, which is French for tooth of the lion or lion's teeth. And the leaves are edible. You can use them in salads. You can use them in greens. You should, if you're not used to the bitterness, I would suggest going 1/4 dandelion greens to 3/4 turnips, collards, mustards, you know, your blend, because they might take some getting used to. Now, it may resonate with you really well. I see some good recipes flowing in the black-eyed pea stew with stewed dandelion greens. Michelle says she's gonna make that for me and all of us, you know. Oh, and there's a dandelion and burdock soda that's ready-made. I'm gonna have to try that. So the amazing thing about dandelion, this is another one that if you don't get to know very many herbs, you need to get to know this one. The leaf is good for anemia, constipation, digestion, elimination. Definitely great for, it's a great diuretic. It is great for water retention. I actually took this instead of, the doctor was trying to prescribe me a high blood pressure pill plus a water pill. And I went on and took the high blood pressure medicine because I hadn't lost the weight I said I was going to lose. But I went for the dandelion leaf as my diuretic. It's a gentle diuretic. I mean, everything flows and goes a lot better with dandelion leaf. Your body will be happy. You'll be amazed. The leaf, so you can do that. You could eat them fresh, or, I mean, like I said, it's bitter. You could tincture it. I've had excellent luck with tincturing it in alcohol, or you can make it into a vinegar. Stacy has her hand up. Stacy, what you got?
So there's no shortage of dandelions around here in the spring. Is it okay to like walk around your yard and pick up dandelion leaves that are just out in the yard, or is this a special kind of dandelion?
That's a real good question, because if you go in Meyer and look at those dandelions, you'll be like, well, these are some special dandelions, because those leaves are so big. I think I'd be scared to see the flower that's coming from. But these, yeah, I got these right out of my yard. I'm going to talk a little bit later about considerations for foraging in your yard, or like what you just need to think about for safe soil. But yeah, these are the regular, good old in the lawn type dandelions.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking. Okay, so like I said, it's good for water retention in the hands, fingers, feet, ankles, calves. Good in potassium. Now, most diuretics that you might be prescribed usually deplete potassium, but dandelion leaf is a source of potassium. It also has vitamin A, C, B, D, and the leaves have iron. Now, and they have iron plus vitamin C. Now, vitamin C helps your body absorb iron better. So that's the thing about plant medicine that is usually challenged with allopathic medicine. When you extract something down to its single constituent, you kind of lose the symphony that keeps things in balance. You know what I mean? Like, this is a perfectly balanced organism. Whereas if I narrow it down to just its diuretic property, I may take away the potassium. I may take away all the things that keep it balanced. So I put my leaves in here already. Dandelion root. I didn't do a good job with this root because you can see it broke off. But dandelion root is a detoxifier. It's great for liver support. It helps remove pesticides, pollutants, contaminants, and wastes, toxins that collect in your joints. It can help with arthritic inflammation. It protects cells. And so I use this in my spring tonic as well. So I use dandelion leaf, dandelion root, and milk thistle, which we're not going to talk about today, but that is a great spring tonic for your liver, for, you know, I don't know that it's, Catherine Underwood asked if it absorbed toxins in the soil. Now, I don't know if it's a soil remediator. Like, I know sunflowers are a soil remediator and autumn olive is a soil remediator, but that's a good question and I'll have to look and see about it absorbing toxins in the soil. Thanks, Catherine. And that's why you got to be careful of where you harvest from, which I'm going to talk about a little bit of that. So now we have plantain, catnip, burdock root, dandelion root, and dandelion leaf. I could also talk about dandelion flower. But I don't have it with me, but I do want to point out that dandelion flowers, when infused in oil, make a great pain relieving oil. And I didn't even know that until I decided to make a dandelion oil. I was making it for first aid purposes, and I found it's a great anti-inflammatory, and it's just amazing. Now, if you decide you want to make a flower oil, You just want to dry them for a couple of days, not even a couple of days. You just want them to be not too wet because they will explode into the puff balls as you try to dry them. You can't dry them all the way. Don't put them in a dehydrator because you're going to come back to just fluff, you know? So you would pick the flowers, let them wilt until they're just not too moist, and then you can infuse your oil with the flower. And then the last herb I'm going to talk about for today is one of my favorites. I shouldn't say that. That's like, I don't have favorites. I shouldn't say that, right? I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that, y'all. So what kind of oil? I usually use regular extra virgin olive oil from Trader Joe's. I use that because it is usually the most accessible. Because remember, I'm trying to make medicine that's accessible. So olive oil tends to be the one least expensive and readily available. But you can use all kinds of oil. You can use jojoba oil. You can use avocado oil, sunflower oil. You can use any kind of, let me take that. You can use coconut oil, but I will say oils have different properties. Some are more easily absorbed into the skin. Some tend to lay on top of the skin, okay? So you want to give some thought to what you want to use it for, but olive oil is a good sort of general purpose oil for most things. So I do need to say that though. Yes, you can use grapeseed oil. I have to find my chart because I'm not well versed in which ones draw things deep into the body better than the ones that lay on top of the body. So, but yes, you could use grapeseed oil. Okay, so the last one we're going to talk about today, and like I said, there's so many. I feel like there's never enough time to talk about all the herbs. We talked about dandelion. And now we're going to talk about mullein. Mullein is another one of my most, I won't say favorite, I should say my most utilized herbs. It has earned, it didn't have to earn nothing from me. I have grown to respect mullein so much, so much. It grows, so mullein is another plant that does different things in different years. So in its first year, it grows in what you see on the left, which is called a rosette, like the plantain. Burdock also grows in a rosette the first year. Excuse me, which is more flat to the ground, like you see, like a big rose. Now in its second year, it shoots up. It grows up from the ground and it shoots up what looks almost like a torch or a candle with these yellow flowers on the right-hand side. And that's how you know it's in its second year when it does that. Mullein leaves. So mullein, now this is I gathered all these today. This was from a second year plant. You can gather it first year or second year plant. Mullein is so generous. You can get so much medicine from one mullein plant. So much leaf medicine. So mullein leaves are very beneficial to the respiratory system. They contain what's called mucilage, which is the same thing like what okra has in it, the slippery substance, but not as much as okra, but it's very soothing to irritated membranes. And it also has, it's an expectorant, so it makes coughs more productive. I used to use mullein. So my grandson, when he came home from the hospital, as so many little babies do in Detroit and elsewhere, shortly after he was pronounced pre-asthmatic. And they wanted to they gave him a nebulizer and his breathing treatments. So of course he would come out to me, and now I would never tell anyone, don't do breathing treatments or don't use your inhaler. I wouldn't do that. But what I did do was supplemented by, you dry the leaf, and then you can burn it like incense. And I know it might seem counterintuitive, but the smoke is soothing. It's gentle, it's smooth. My friends who do still roll their own cigarettes, I sell them smoking blends to add the mullein to it so that it'll be a little healing. If you're gonna smoke it, let it at least have some component that's good for you. It's anti-inflammatory. Like I said, it's smokable. It is, you could tincture it, you could put it in a vinegar, you could use it as a tea. Some people claim better results with one or the other. I've had some people say the tincture didn't work very well for them. The tea worked really good for them. I have a sister-in-law who is undergoing treatment for a cyst in her lungs. It's not cancerous, but it does cause her to have a biting cough, like it'll just catch her all of a sudden. And I brought her a big bag of dried mullein, and we would just sort of smudge her whole entire, just, put it around her, and she would breathe it in, and it really helped. I had another person, when we went up to Idlewild, Michigan, and I was explaining about mullein. She took some home, and she texted me one night and was like, Lottie, I'm about to cry. And I was like, what's the matter? And she said, my daughter was having some trouble with her. She was having an asthma attack, or she was feeling the quiver, that tightening happening. And she just wanted some relief. And she's like, I went and got that mullein leaf that you told me to, and I burned it. And she breathed it in, and she said she's feeling better. And she said, I'm just crying because I was able to help. I was able to help her. Like I had something to help her. And that was very powerful to me. And I just had another person who I sent some mullein leaf to for their little one who has asthma. Again, I wouldn't say stop your medications, but you can add this to the mix. I do have, I'm gonna put some in the vinegar, but I do just want to show you, this is my dollar store pot. And this is my dried mullein leaf in here, because I was getting over a respiratory thing that was trying to linger. Oops. And every morning I would just get up. So I dried this in a dehydrator. I chopped it up and dried it in a dehydrator, but you could dry the whole leaf and then just crumble it a little bit. You don't have to. You could also put this in like a tea ball. You know, those tea balls that you use for making tea. If it's really crunched up into small tea, small pieces, you could put it in a tea ball and then light a match underneath the tea ball. But I just want to show you what I mean by, see how it doesn't really like whoosh up into flames like you think a dry herb would do? Because this is good and dry, like over a year dry. It burns slow, like an incense. And then you can just kind of waft it towards you. It is not like, you would think smoke would be irritating, but it's not. It's so mild. And I would throw a match in here and have the whole pot just sitting in the lap, like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But it works. I would suggest if you have chronic respiratory issues to get some mullein in your life, especially the dried smoke. But you can use it as a tincture, a vinegar, what have you. So I'm gonna add a little of this. And I didn't even talk about the root, which is great for musculoskeletal situations. And that's what's crazy. This is why plants are amazing. How is it that the root is good for your spine and musculoskeletal situations and synovial fluid and tendinitis and things? That's the root. The leaves are good for your respiratory system, like I just explained. The flowers are good for ear aches, ear infections, a whole nother thing. Like, how is that even possible in one plant? Somebody knew what they was doing. Not us. And I ain't talking about humans either. So, okay. We have our jar. Yes, it's a little overfilled, but that's okay. We're not even gonna worry about that. I got my, yay, superstar Bragg's. Let me get my little page on vinegar. I might have to do it off the top of my head. So vinegar, I use vinegar a lot. I use vinegar because, first of all, again, access. It's easy access. People might be avoiding alcohol for whatever reason. It might be because you're a child. It might be because your relationship, you don't have a healthy relationship with alcohol and don't want to, don't want to indulge in alcohol of any kind. It may not feel, I feel like it might not feel as intimidating sometimes when we sit down to make herbal medicine. So I'm just going to, boom, 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 look at us over there making dad jokes. Not to brag, but we use brag every day. I know that's right. Oh, I forgot something. I'm just gonna have to tell you. So I filled it to the top with apple cider vinegar. This can sit for a week or two before it's ready. And what do I use it for? I need to go get a piece of wax paper because vinegar will slowly corrode the metal on your mason jar. Or do I have any? I have to get my or I don't have any with me. I have to put a layer of wax paper on here first, and then put your top on. And then you can store it right on the counter. You can store it on the counter or in the refrigerator. I've never had any go bad. This is a spring tonic vinegar. I like to call it like a spring in your step tonic. What would I use it for? You can make salad dressing out of this. You can add it to your greens when you cook. You can add a shot of it to a glass of warm water in the morning and just drink it, or tea. You could mix it with an equal amount of honey, and then you're making what's called an oxymel and use it as almost like a syrup. You can, I would suggest always taking it with food or with some water because you don't want it to be irritating to your teeth or to your gastrointestinal system. But you can use it just like you would do vinegar, regular vinegar. I really like to use it as salad dressing. I really like to use it as seasoning when I'm making beans, when I make soup. And I do really, so I let it sit for about 1 or 2 weeks. You can start testing it after a week. You could add garlic to this. You could add oregano, basil, like you could give it more flavor than what we have going on here. Cayenne pepper, lemon peels. Like you could get creative in that way, but look back at your notes and you'll see you have a vinegar that's going to have all the properties that we discussed. So It really has the makings of a good digestive aid based on some of the things we talked about. And so, yeah, I make a big thing of this in the spring with all kinds of things that are ready. We just use these few things, but I make it with chickweed and violets and garlic chives and everything that's out there. And then I make a big old thing of it, like a gallon or more. And then in the fall, I turn around and use what's left to make fire cider. So it'll have all the benefits of your spring herbs, plus your onions, garlic, cayenne peppers, and things that I make in the fall for fire cider. That's like seasonal, place-based medicine, right? Woo, I need a sip of tea, as Erykah Badu would say. I think I need a cup of tea. Okay, we're at the end of our class. I want y'all to have a chance to, I'm glad people have been kind of asking questions all along. This won't go bad. You can sit it on your counter or in your refrigerator if you're more comfortable with that. I'll just say, I've never had it go bad. If you should ever see mold or smell funny or you don't feel comfortable, then of course, don't take it. But I've never had a vinegar-based solution go bad. Fire cider. Okay, so fire cider is a folk medicine that I just usually make it in the fall. And I hope if you're in Detroit or in Michigan, I hope we get together. I'm gonna do a fire cider build in the fall. And it is a apple cider vinegar based tonic, but it has the kick to it. So it either has cayenne pepper. I make mine with habanero peppers, garlic, lemon, turmeric, burdock root. So there's probably as many recipes for fire cider as there are people. You can make it according to what you like, but it always has garlic, onions, a citrus element, and a hot element to it. And it's great for cold, flu, it's warming. I put cinnamon and other spices in mine, and I make it in the fall. So this is like a spring tonic, and then my fire cider is like my fall vinegar tonic. How are mullein flowers used for earaches? So mullein flower can be made into an oil, a mullein flower infused oil, and then you would put drop dosages in the ear. I've never done it before, so I'm not familiar with how long it takes to heal. I'm sure you would want to be careful if there was a perforated eardrum or something like that. Wouldn't just put a lot of oil in my ear. But you can do garlic oil also for earaches. I would just do a drop at a time and see how that is. Or you could start your research from there. So it's mullein flower oil. You're welcome. Using mullein for fluid in the body. Did I mention mullein for fluid? I mentioned the root for, I think what you might be referring, I hope I'm getting this right. I mentioned mullein root being good for situations where synovial fluid, which is what's between, we get to cracking and crackling and, and hurting, and it helps lubricate the musculoskeletal system. So it's synovial fluid was what I was referring to.
All right. Now, do we have any other questions for Lottie as we get to the end of the class? Any more comments? No, we just received a lot of awesome information. I know I definitely will be making me a tonic with some burdock.
I hope so. That's my thing is, I feel like I just want to help people bridge the gap between I want to do this and actually doing it, because I know we get caught up in a lot of stuff and we forget, or what did she say? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, what did she say? You know what I mean? So,
Right.
and the only other thing I want to say is back to what I think there was a comment about, can I just harvest the dandelions that are in my yard? So you want to keep in mind what has happened in your yard. Like, is there a possibility of lead or other toxins in the soil? Because like Catherine was asking about, do dandelions absorb toxins? I mean, I think all plants absorb some of what they're grown in, you know, so this is where a partnership with a farm, these programs like Keep Growing Detroit, like Oakland Avenue Farm, I go over there and I'm like, can I get y'all motherwort? Can I get, you know, places where they've tested the soil and they're growing organically, even if it's not certified organic, that's a place where you can go get those weeds. They'll be like, take these dandelions. Yes, take these dandelions. Or you could consider container gardening for whatever you want to grow, or raised bed gardening where you put a barrier between the soil if there are toxins in the soil. So that's just one thing you want to be careful of. I wanted to point that out. Mullein, you mean mullein is hard to find. Well, when mullein likes a place, it will thrive because the seeds are in that flower, the flower torch. You're right that it's usually found wild. I guess you could buy mullein seeds, but just ask around, just go looking. It's going to find you. It's going to find you now. Yes, forage where you know they haven't sprayed chemicals, they haven't treated their lawn. So that's another environmental justice thing, right? We send people like, yeah, go forage. Well, where? In the city. You know, I don't know people that have swaths of land to forage on. Now, D-Town Farm might be a good place, you know. So some relationship building. Yes,
You have a question
unmute.
from Emily.
Okay, Gail is gonna unmute.
Okay.
Where can you go buy all these herbs reasonable? Because when I go to these health food stores, they're real high now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in big bulk, so you can get enough to do something with.
Yeah. See, and that continues to be a challenge, which is, again, why I was saying the more of us that start to grow medicinal herbs is going to be helpful. In the meantime, I mean, I order in bulk from Mountain Rose Herbs online. I order a lot. I order a lot.
Mountain Rose, what?
Mountain Rose Herbs.
And I'm looking for a Masterworth tea. I can't find it nowhere because it's supposed to strengthen your whole body. Masterworth. I think they call it cow's nip, or that's one other name for it. Cow's nip.
I'll have to research that.
Please do. Please do. Thank you. I've been looking for it and looking for it.
Okay, I'll see what I can find.
Thank
Do we have access to folks' emails after this, Naja?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I find some information, Gail, I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Emily?
Yep, she was asking about potassium. If you has a potassium sparing diuretic, would they want to stay away from dandelion or be careful with that dandelion?
I mean, that makes sense. I have to say I'm not as familiar with like percentages and the quantity of potassium and how it would affect if you were on a potassium sparing diuretic. There may be studies that have been done on that, so it'd be worthwhile to kind of do some research, but I do not know off the top of my head. But I would say, yes, be careful. Your closing question was they'd want to be careful with dandelion. I'll say yes. Yeah.
All right, anyone else with questions or a comment?
So Patricia, I think you're referring to.
Yep, I just answered that in
Okay,
direct.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. All of you, it's been a pleasure and an honor to be with you this evening, because I know we all got stuff going on. So thank you for giving of your time. And oh, let me share my last little slide, which is, and you all can get a copy of these slides for sure. Oh, I didn't get a chance to show that video. Okay, it's okay. There's a reading list here of a lot of great books. And then here's my information. So please keep in touch. I'm on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, my website. If you want to do some deeper studying of seasonal living and deeper study of herbs, I have a Patreon. And so you'll have this information sent out. We can send this out, right?
Yeah, everybody will receive a copy of the class is going to be put onto YouTube, and I will send out the YouTube once it's posted, and I will send you the slide.
Okay, and there is a link for a survey. So please fill out the survey. I know everybody wants to.
Yeah, I just dropped the link in the chat. You can actually go ahead and click on it now and go back to it later if you want to, but just click on it now so you can have it. And when I send that email with the slides and the link to the Zoom, you'll have that as well.
Okay, while they're doing that, I got a request to go back to the
If
book.
you need permission to get on that survey.
Okay, yep, let me unlock it.
Context.
Someone asked for the book list one more time.
Okay.
While they're doing that.
I'm sorry, did you hear my comment about the survey?
Yes, yep, I'm about to go unlock that.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. If it's not working now, like I said, I will be sending this out again, or just check back later. I don't want to hold you all here while I'm unlocking all that. So.
Okay, we can send it to them later.
Yep, I can send it to them later. And if you click on it now, you'll have it. So it'll be unlocked before the evening is out.
Okay. Well, like I said, want to say how much I really appreciate all of you taking your time to spend some time with me. And I look forward to seeing you in some upcoming classes, wherever, whenever. And I hope you have a wonderful evening and take care.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone. I'll be sending out the information. So if you missed anything, I know someone is asking for the list again. That'll be in the slide. So you'll receive that in your email early next week. All right. Everyone have a good night.
Peace.
Good night. Peace.